Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn about inverse function. An inverse function is a function that reverses another function. So let's say your function is f of x, and if you want to find the inverse of this function, you represent that by writing this f to the power of -1 and x. This is how you represent the inverse of a function. If the function is g of x, that means the inverse of this function is going to be this thing. So it doesn't matter what your function is, you just use this to the power of -1 and then write x. Same thing, is just this shows the sign of an inverse. Now let's see how to actually find the inverse of this function. Let's say your function is 2x minus 5 and you want to find the inverse of this. Now, before you find the inverse of this, I want to show you how you got this function in the first place. So if you started with the input, that is the x, what did you do first? With the x, you multiplied by 2. As a result, you had 2 of x, and then to get to this function, you had to subtract 5. So you have 2x minus 5. This is how you have 2x minus 5. Now to find the inverse of this function, I am going to do everything in reverse. So I will start with the x. Okay, so I'm just going to write my x over here. Now because you subtracted 5 from it, I'm going to add 5 from it, add 5 to it. And I will have x plus 5. Now for this step, you multiplied by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. I'm going to do everything in inverse. So I'm going to have x plus 5 over 2. And this is your inverse of this function. So if you have f of x equals to 2x minus 5, the inverse of this function is going to be x plus 5 over 2. Now there's another way to do this, like you don't have time in the exam to do this every time. So I'm going to show you the other way. If this f of x, right, it actually means y equals to 2x minus 5. Now to find the inverse, since everything is the opposite, I'm going to interchange the x and y. So my y is going to be x and my x is going to be y. And then I'm going to make this y the subject. I'm going to move this -5 to the other side. I will have x plus 5 equals to 2y. And because I just want this y to be the subject, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So as a result, you will have y equals to x plus 5 over 2. But note that this y is not really the y. This is the inverse of the function. So I'm going to write f inverse of x equals to x plus 5 over 2. Okay, so now let's look at the graphs of this function and its inverse. Okay, so this is where I have the graph. The red line is for the original function, which is y equals to 2x minus 5, and the blue one is for the inverse, which is y equals to x plus 5 over 2. And what else? Okay, so if you look at this graph, right, you can see that this is actually the reflection in this line of this line. So if I draw a line, I'm sorry, this is not really perfect. So this is my line of y equals to x. Now this acts as a mirror. As you can see, this graph is here and it's using this as the mirror. So you have the inverse of the graph over here. And also something important about this thing is that the domain of one graph is the range of the other graph, like everything is opposite. And so I'm just going to take some random points from the line. I will take this point here. I have, this is 3, so this is going to be 2.5. So for the actual function, the y, I have 2 and 2.5 and 0. This is 1, and let's take another point. Let's take this. At this point you have 4, and the x is 4 and the y is 3. Okay, now if you look at the blue graph, you will have all of these points but opposite. You can see that for this one, the y-intercept it's actually the x is 0 but the y is 2.5, which is the opposite of this. So this is for my inverse, and you can see that the x becomes y and the y becomes x. For this, you can also see that when for this graph, the x is 4, right? So when the y is 4 for this graph, and if you go down, you can see that the x is 3. So in the inverse, you have 3 and 4 as well. So if you just have the graphs like the normal graph, the function, you can, if you want to find the inverse of the function, all you need to do is just take some points, and to draw the inverse of that function, you just change the x and the y's. Okay, so this is something important. Now let's practice few questions. Okay, I will show you some more examples. Let's say you have f of x equals to square root of x plus 2 minus 3. How do you find the inverse of this function? The first step is to interchange the x and the y's. Now, this f of x is not your x, this is your y, right? So first of all, I'm going to write it in terms of y, and then I'm going to interchange the value. So y becomes x, and this is y plus 2 minus 3. So this minus 3 will move to the other side, x plus 3, and this side I just have y plus 2. Now, because I want to make the y the subject, so I'm going to square both sides to get rid of this square root. So if I do that, this square root and square gets cancelled out. So you just have x plus 3 whole square equals to y plus 2. But I just want the y, so your y is actually x plus 3 whole square minus 2 equals to the y. Now I'm not going to write the y because this is not really your y. This is the inverse of this function. Okay, so this is how you can find the inverse. I will show you another example, which a little bit complicated. Let's say you have this function g of x, and it equals to 1 plus 9x over 4 minus x. There are so many x's over here. So I'm going to take this as, this is your y, right? But because you want to find the inverse, you're going to interchange it. So this is going to be the x, and this x's are going to be the new y's. So 9y over 4 minus y, and then you can cross multiply. So you will have x times 4 minus y, and that equals to 1 plus 9y. Then I'm going to expand this, and I will have 4x minus 4y equals to, sorry, this is not 4y, this is xy. Let me just erase it, and I'm going to write xy. 4x minus xy equals to 1 plus 9y. Now, because I want to make the y the subject, so I'm going to move all the things with y's to one side and the rest of the numbers to the other side. So I'm going to have 4x, I'm going to move this 1 to this side, and I will have 4x minus 1 equals to 9y plus xy. And you want to make y the subject, so you have to take it out because it's in common. It's common for in both the terms, so you can, when you take it out, you just have 9 plus x inside the bracket. This equals to 4x minus 1. Now it's easy. If you want to make y the subject, you just need to divide by both sides by 9 plus x. 9 plus x, 9 plus x, this gets cancelled out, so you just have y equals to 4x minus 1 over 9 plus x. But because it's not my y, this is really the inverse, so I'm going to write g inverse x equals to 4x minus 1 over 9 plus x. Okay, I will show you another example. Let's say you have another function h of x, and this equals to x to the power of 3 plus x. How to inverse this? Instead of h of x, I'm going to write y, because this is your y equals to x cubed plus 6, and then I am going to interchange the x and the y values. So instead of y, I'm going to write x equals to y to the power of 3 plus 6. And this 6, you can move it to the other side. You will have x minus 6 equals to y to the power of 3. And if you want to make y the subject, you need to cube root both sides. So this side is that. And this cube root and the cube, it gets cancelled out. So you just have y equals to cube root of x minus 6 but remember that this is not really the y. So this is your inverse, so I can just write h inverse x equals to cube root of x minus 6. Okay, so that will be all for today. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you.